Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Live with Julie Stevens and Trevor Clark. And we are really excited to be spending some time with you today around the hot topic of Fen Ben or fenbendazole. So really thrilled to be spending some time with you today. And we are just welcoming it in our Instagram Live, folks. And we are going to be snuggled up for the rest of us because we are trying to make this work for both Instagram and Facebook. So when whoever's talking, Trevor, I think we just need to come in the middle and be the one who's talking. So that way we don't have to quite be so close together the entire time. So,
all right.
But anyway, so excited for everyone to be joining us. And this is going to be a really exciting edition of our live because of where we have been this last week. But let me just quickly take a quick minute to set a little bit of the experience and kind of where we want to spend some time today. And as you guys know, my entire purpose of cancer is to help people both treat their disease and heal the root causes. So what we're going to be talking about today is how we treat the disease. So this is one of the ways you can treat your disease. And as you guys know, there's sometimes an easy button, sometimes a medium easy button, and sometimes the hard button. And the easy button is for someone like me. I had something like immunotherapy. That means you can take it. It gives you a really strong response. It is truly an easy button. It's insufficient to just do immunotherapy, but it is the easy button to treat your cancer. Sorry, I forgot I'm supposed to be in the middle. But the second part is things like, but it's medium hard. That's like the chemotherapy. It does take more effort. It does do more to your body, but it can absolutely kill your cancer. But for other people out there, you have to take the hard path. And was popularized by someone named Jane McClellan, talking about each of the different pathways we can use to starve our cancer. One of the things we'll be talking about today is the more difficult path we can take to treat our cancer cells. And this is where Fen Ben can play a very, very critical role. But Trevor and I just spent the last few days at the Annie Appleseed Conference down in West Palm. Trevor, what did you think about the Annie Appleseed Conference?
It was amazing. The energy there was wild. Everyone was so informed and had done so much research. I don't think I've spoken to that many informed people at a conference before.
It was, I was so shocked at how cool it was to see so many informed and excited people. Man, it was our people. I loved being there. Yeah. So but the very first day, we had the luxury of seeing a gentleman by the name of Mr. Joe Tippins. So do you mind just doing a little bit of an intro around Joe?
Yeah, Joe Tippins, he's an investment banker that got diagnosed with stage 4 terminal lung cancer. And basically, he said they told him to go home and start getting his affairs in order.
That's exactly right. They said, you've got about 6 months. He was just about to leave to move to Europe to start a brand new job, was given this horrible diagnosis, and was basically told, we've got nothing for you. So we had nothing to lose. Hearing this survivor story is truly what lit the match in me to really dig in on this because, for those of you who know me, I'm not a big fan of the spray and pray cancer approaches. In fact, I'm much more likely to focus on precision medicine or the medicine that will specifically give us the advantage in our healing journey. Sorry, guys, I hit the camera. Yeah. But so this is really, really different from where I typically stand. And that's because I want medicine to be based on my body, my type of cancer, and my specific environment. Fen Ben breaks that rule. So I really want to make sure you understand this is something that could potentially be advantage for anyone with a hard tumor cancer. So I think that's important to say. So this survivor story is what lit the match. And I have to say, it's pretty infrequent that you meet someone who is doing something for no personal benefit. And that's really important for us to just underscore because Joe mentioned multiple times he has made $0 from his journey. So if you are seeing something online that has a paid value to it, that is not Joe Tippins. He has taken $0 for his research. What else would you say on that? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it adds a lot of credibility to him. He just wanted to spread. He kept getting so many inquiries about it that he just wrote a blog and put it out there because he said he thought that'd be the end of being asked about it. And he said it got even bigger. And that's when he said all the fake Joe Tippins came in.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, you've got to be doing something right when you've got a bunch of people who are faking it and trying to come in after you. I got to just say that. So, but it's really important for us to understand this idea of Fen Ben. And for the rest of our conversation, we are just going to be talking about this one drug. It oftentimes gets grouped with other drugs, but we're just going to be talking about fenbendazole. And I say that, and we'll actually be talking about 2 derivatives of fenbendazole, but we are not going to be discussing ivermectin during this call. But it is important, if you have questions or comments for us, please do feel free to use the comments in whatever the program is that you're watching this, because we will be checking those throughout our conversation today. But Trevor, would you mind just quickly talking a little bit about what you began to learn in the experience? And I'm going to go ahead and upload some slides that we may want to share as well.
Yeah, about his story or about the research on it?
His story, yeah.
Yeah, his story. So he like I said, he's preparing to move to a new job offer he had in Switzerland, and got this terrible diagnosis, and didn't just take the doctor's word on it that he's going to die. Went and started getting in other information, and spoke to a friend of his that was a big animal vet. And the friend told him a story about someone they knew that was a Merck research scientist at Merck Pharmaceuticals. And they had given this a deworming drug, fenbendazole, to several of the mice in their clinical trials, which was standard procedure to clear them of parasites before doing experiments on them. And it also happened to kill all the tumors in the mice, which was, she thought was a strange side effect. And then that same researcher also, unclear in the story if it was at the same time or shortly after, got diagnosed with a glioblastoma brain tumor. And she took it and had a complete remission of the brain tumor. So that was enough info for Joe from his friend to go ahead and try it, because, I mean, his doctor had told him there was no hope. So he started taking that. And at the same time, he was also got enrolled in a clinical trial for a drug called Keytruda.
Now, it's important. This is the exact drug that I use to help treat my cancer. Keytruda has been proven through multiple clinical trials to be impactful and effective for my colorectal cancer. So there is a long-term history of this particular drug working for my cancers. But the hard part about immunotherapy is, for those of us that it works for, it is a beautiful solution, but it does not work for many people. It doesn't work for all cancer types, and you've got to have a very specific type of challenge, or like MSI high or high tumor burden, in order for this to be effective for you. Yeah. So this is not a one size fits all. It is not something. Keytruda does not work for all cancers. And in fact, Merck has withdrawn the approval for the type of cancer Joe Tippins had. So it is certainly something that Merck has said Keytruda will not work for. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, we're not talking down about Keytruda, just in his specific case. Yeah. So he enrolled in the clinical trial, and at the same time, and it was a large clinical trial, but at the same time, he also started this fenbendazole protocol with a couple of supplements along with it to support it. And so by the end of the trial, he was the only one alive. He's the only one that survived the trial. And like Julie said, later it was determined that Keytruda did not work for his specific type of lung cancer. And I don't remember the specific details on his type, but and then they kind of asked about what he was doing, and he told them about the fenbendazole he'd been taking and why he'd been taking it. So
this is just really important, folks, because I just want to make sure you understand. A lot of people will discount his story because he was in a clinical trial. We can show you evidence of multiple other experiences where there has been a shift based on this one particular drug. So I don't know if you're like, some people really need to have a double-blind clinical trial in order to believe something. I was not one of those people. I was willing to drink hot lemon water because I understood that hot lemon water as a society was never going to pay for a clinical trial, despite the fact that I understood that would help me with my liver toxicity. So there's a lot of things out there that we just know that have never had a clinical trial. Fenbendazole is one of those things that for humans, it has never had a clinical trial. Agreed?
Correct. Yeah, it was released as an animal anti-helminthic or anti-parasitic drug. And there's a class of these drugs. I think it's like 7 or 8 drugs in this class that fenbendazole's in. And some of them have been studied and approved for humans. And this one was just studied and approved for animals. Not because of any reason that it shouldn't be given to humans. That was just, you choose a route for your drug as a company. And it takes a massive amount of years of clinical trials to then be able to release it for that use and for that. So you can't just have an animal-human drug like study.
Trevor isn't talking as someone who hasn't done this. Can you please walk us through? You've been actually part of these sorts of trials before in your professional experience. Is that correct?
Yeah. I had to study all the FDA investigational new drug or IND process for applying for pharmaceuticals, as well as over-the-counter drug status to be able to make drug claims. And I did the analytical research, and was on a team that did an investigational new drug license, applied for one to run clinical trials for a herb-based drug that was, it was just herb extract that, for treatment-resistant depression. And we got provisional approval. So, I've been through this process. I've studied with it. I've met with FDA scientists. Yeah.
Okay.
On this topic. Yep.
We just want to make sure you understand this isn't something that we're unfamiliar with. This is actually how things work. And so when a organization like a pharmaceutical company wants to bring a new drug to market, they will go out and do a massive amount of research. Then they get a conditional approval by the FDA. They go out and do more research to prove it will actually work. Then that's when they get the FDA clearance. It typically takes between 12 to 17 years from the first research study until a new drug is available on the market.
You have to do a toxicology, phase 1 clinical trials. We're just establishing safety. Then phase 2, I believe, is a dose escalation study or response study. And then finally a phase 3 study.
So it's important to understand that in order for a pharmaceutical company to make money on a drug, it has to be within the patent. After the patent has expired, anyone can copy the drug and do a synthetic of it for much, much cheaper. So they actually do not make money once a drug is out of patent. So it's really important to have those key patented years.
Yeah, off-patent drug is just very cheap. Anyone can make it. And if you were to put the money into a study in an off-patent drug, then any of these off-brand manufacturers could then use your study. And so you really wouldn't see the return on investment as far as a company is concerned on doing the new studies. So
there's a reason out there when people are like, well, why isn't the pharmaceutical company doing the study? Well, because they're not going to make any money from doing the study. They're not going to make any money from targeting this as a cancer drug. So this is why it's important for you to understand the economics of cancer care. And this is where this comes in of why isn't the study being done? Because there's no money behind it. Just like there's no money in hot lemon water or broccoli sprouts or things like that. It just doesn't exist. So we've got to start to look beyond those double-blind, placebo trials to see what else we can use to see how this could help. And that's what Trevor and I really dug into this week after hearing Joe Tippins, because I have to say it kind of lit the fire, sparked the fire inside of me.
I also want to say there's a certain risk versus reward ratio, risk versus reward assessment you're doing. And so what's the risk versus reward of drinking your hot lemon water?
0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, obviously there comes a certain point where you're doing too many things, like too many supplements but there's, risk versus reward. It's a very important aspect of these things.
For sure. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the mechanisms of action when we think about Fen Ben, because I think it's important for you to understand what the research actually says. And Trevor, for this part of the conversation, I'm actually going to add some of our slides so that we can actually talk through this.
Yeah, so cool.
Here's just a little bit of some of the slides we created for this conversation. And the first question here is like, why would we use a repurposed veterinary drug? Frankly, because that's what was proposed to someone who was dying, and he was willing to try anything. You've got to remember, out of his clinical trial, 99.9% of people died. 1 person lived, and that was Joe Tippins. So you're willing to do a lot of things when your life is on the line. So that's why we were willing to consider a veterinary drug. But there are oftentimes drugs that are repurposed all the time. And in fact, that's what Jane McClellan is so famous for, repurposing these pharmaceuticals. And here's just an overview of the fenbendazole. And you notice here that its technical target is the gastrointestinal parasite. So that the roundworm and hookworm, that is what it is known for. And it is absolutely related to 2 other drugs.
Right.
You want to talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, it's related to, like I said, there's 7 or 8 anti-parasitic or anti-helminthic drugs in this class. Joe specifically said that, he's been investing money in research into this stuff and trying to get some research out there to benefit everyone. For sure. And he believes still that fenbendazole is the only one in that class that has all 3 of these mechanisms of action that relate to fighting cancer. So he still believes this is the primary one. A lot of people are trying fenbendazole because it's in the same class. It does have some shared mechanisms of action, and it's approved for human use. So it's easier for an MD, it's easier for a doctor to accept maybe this would have an off-label use, because doctors know that drugs have off-label uses, than a veterinary drug, which is already like, okay, what standards is it being produced? They have all these concerns. Yeah.
I will say today, guys, I actually saw my oncologist this morning and asked him about this, and his exact response was, it's certainly not going to hurt. So I have to say that even the most progressive doctors are like, listen, try it. It's not, there's no downside. And in fact, it can actually increase the effectiveness of your chemotherapy. So let's dig in and teach you a little bit about how this works. So can you describe to us kind of the three-pronged attack that comes when using fenbendazole?
Yeah, totally. The first one, or the biggest one, is microtubule destabilization. And so basically what it's doing is it's stopping these microtubules, which allow the cell to split in mitosis and kind of regenerate or grow. So it's stopping that, which is a pretty big mechanism of action here.
Yeah.
The second one is it's actually stopping the GLUT4 doorways of the cancer cell from opening. And GLUT4 doorways are basically the doorway to your cell that allows sugar into the cell. And many types of cancer are sugar hogs. They love sugar, and they grow on it. And so blocking that doorway for certain types of cancers is a big deal, to be able to block off the food source. And then finally, the other one is...
This is my favorite, guys. This is my favorite one. Stay tuned. Okay, keep going.
The final one is basically increasing cell suicide or apoptosis. You're basically, your tumors decrease p53 pathway, which is the natural process of when a cell is damaged or harmed and it doesn't quite make sense to repair it for the body. They'll just induce cell death and create a new cell to replace it. So that gets inhibited in tumors, or in most tumors from what I read, and this stops that and allows the natural process of cell death.
Guys, this is what's magic, because it's going to kind of strangle this from the nutritional perspective, but it's also going to help it kill itself after it realizes it's a faulty cell.
And this like multiple targeted disruption of the tumor cells. I mean, like there are chemotherapeutics. I know at least they're being researched and developed to do just the microtubule destabilization. That's one pathway that they're trying to copy. And there may be some drugs on the market that have just that one pathway. I can't remember. But anyways, that's targeting one. This is doing three things in a drug, which is, special.
So, and this is important to say, it is not something that you would do necessarily in lieu of another treatment. You can do this in combination with other treatments. So we're not suggesting putting off doing an immunotherapy that might really be curative in some way. So I just want to make sure we're reinforcing that.
Yep.
So anything you'd want to say here, for this slide, I did want to point out, you see that this microtubule disruption is similar to two different types of chemotherapy drugs, just like your taxanes out there, guys. So this acts as similarly to a chemo drug. Winner, chicken dinner. So this is one of the microtubule disruptions. Anything else you'd add for this one?
Yeah, well, so like you said, while you're weakening these cells and causing cell death, meanwhile, all the other therapeutics that are trying to attack the cells, it's going to increase their effectiveness. And so, and then allowing the cells to naturally die easier, you're going to allow those treatments, depending on how they're working, to kill it off and then the cell to die quicker. So they work in conjunction.
That's exactly right.
And while he mainly used this as his treatment, because it seems like Keytruda was pretty eliminated as having an action on his cancer, but yeah, so it did work by itself with him, with a couple supplements in addition. But
let's come back to that. Really
okay,
quick. This second one, this whole idea of this is where you said it blocks the GLUT4 and the GLUT1 transport, and really kills the death,
starving the
basically.
cells. Yeah,
because that's number 2,
cancer cells. Yep.
Let's do our number 3 real quick. This, as I said, is my favorite. This is killing cell suicide when it knows it's killing you. So I really like this idea that we're activating this p53. So really powerful. But let's just quickly go here, because I definitely want to spend a minute here. And this is on one of the biggest challenges. And that one of the biggest challenges is we don't actually receive that much of the Fen-Ben. So Trevor, can you talk a little bit about this? So even though we may be taking things orally, it doesn't actually make it into our system.
Yeah, it has poor bioavailability. It's lipophilic or a fat-soluble compound. So it just has poor bioavailability. I'm going to get tongue twisted there. Bioavailability. And this is a common problem in herbs. We see it with herbs. And then traditionally, when you read about the use of some of these herbs, you're like, oh, wow, it was always traditionally eaten with food or with fatty things. And because it increases the absorption when taken in with food.
The very number one thing, guys, is if you want this to be absorbed, do not take it on an empty stomach. So right way, we're telling you, if you're going to take this, you need to take this with some fat in your tummy.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep going though, because what we also understood, I'm just going to go past this one really quickly, is it's not something you take alone. So
Yeah.
Trevor, you just mentioned that you often will take this with some herbs. Why would you need to take something beyond just one? Like, why do you need to take more than one thing?
Yeah, so already fenbendazole, like a lot of herbs, I'm sure a lot of drugs too, has multiple pathways or multiple mechanisms of action. But tumors or cancer cells, there's almost like an intelligence, like a life intelligence in them, and they figure out ways to work around those. They're like, oh, I'll go this pathway. Or I can't have sugar. Oh, maybe some tumor types will start metabolizing and getting energy from fats or proteins, which I think is less common, but I think that's one workaround that they develop. But anyways, so basically he established multiple different pathways, not just Joe by himself, but with his research team that we'll talk about in a little bit, and figured out supplements to block the other pathways that tumors tend to find as a workaround. And so some of those supplements are turmeric. Joe specifically loves curcumin because in the research, they like to focus in on one molecule of an herb or one chemical class. But curcumin is one portion of turmeric. And so as an herbalist, we like to use the whole plant. And then back to bioavailability, turmeric has poor bioavailability. So in traditional Ayurvedic medicine or in Indian culture, it's always cooked into fats. Or they add black pepper, which increases its bioavailability by almost 2,000%. So there's multiple different things. Most of the turmeric supplements on the market have a bioavailability helper in there now. So not as bad as maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when you could buy just turmeric in a capsule. It just passed through your system. Some of the other ones is quercetin, works in the same mechanism of action. So he's kind of recommend a turmeric quercetin mix in there, which is nice. Let me look at the pathway extra good. Oh yeah. That was just the inflammatory. COX-2 to help support the fenbendazole. Then you got berberine. Berberine is an extract of several different herbs from yellow root, I guess that's a more southeast herb, to golden seal, which is pretty famous, like along with ginseng and such. But that's a metabolic control pathway. And many of you might know berberine for blood sugar control and type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And so he's recommending a high dose of berberine, 500 milligrams, like you would take with blood sugar control, because you're also trying to tap into that metabolic control pathway like you use for diabetes. And then another one he's recommending is resveratrol and fisetin. Both of these all help to stop stem cell differentiation. So as the cancer is growing, it'll take stem cells and they're like blank slates, and it'll convert them into its cell type. And so taking those two antioxidants helps stop stem cell differentiation, or slow it rather. Probably not stop it, but slow it. So you're helping block this regeneration pathway. So
Trevor, are there also foods you could eat that could go along with this?
Totally, yeah. Quercetin is in tons of foods. Famous like Eastern European cultures will be boiling onion skins into all their soups because onion skins are packed with quercetin. You can also buy supplemental quercetin. I mean, it's a very cheap, beautiful antioxidant. And then like resveratrol, famous for grapes. Grape seeds is the source of commercial supplement industry extract. But resveratrol is a very nice antioxidant. And then the fisetin, it's found in fruits like strawberries. Excuse me, what else?
I think strawberries was the one I was thinking.
Strawberries is a big one. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's in several other things. You can look it up. But
this time of year, who doesn't want a fresh strawberry?
That's right. Yeah.
Now, okay, so let's go back to the subs though, Trev. Which of these can you, like, dosage wise? That's the big question. Can you overtake any of these supplements?
Right. No, none of these. No. Curcumin. Well, that's the fractionated. Turmeric, your only danger if you overtake it. Because remember, all these are food grade supplements, pretty much. Berberine isn't quite. But curcumin, if you take over 4 to 5 grams a day, you find it start to be drying to the skin. But you shouldn't be taking that much turmeric anyways. You don't need that much. Yeah. On average, you're taking a gram or 2 grams maybe a day in supplemental form.
Okay, perfect.
And then I'll say berberine is one that's like the highest dosing that you'll see, and that's like 500 milligrams a day of the pure berberine compound from golden seal. So
okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so not a lot of issues when we think about that cross toxicity. So that's the good news there.
Yeah.
So let's talk really quickly though about some of the warnings. And one of the big warnings I had when I thought about fenbendazole and when I want to give to everyone is around your liver.
Yeah.
And guys, this is one of those situations where you got to be a data gangster. You don't just start taking something and then say, oh, it's going to work great. No. If we know your liver could be impacted before you start, you measure your ALT and your AST. What is that?
Yeah, ALT and AST. They're the liver enzymes. They're markers. They're in every basic blood panel. You constantly get them run, even by your primary care physician.
So you get them measured before you start the fenbendazole and make sure you're in a good place. And then
you get them measured during.
That's exactly
every
right.
2 to 4 weeks. You're probably going to want to get them measured because let's be honest, you're trying something and we want to be as safe as possible. And if you have any liver issues, you need to speak with your doctor beforehand about this.
That's exactly right. Yep. So protect yourself. But there's also things you could be doing to support your liver during treatment, no matter what. Things like eating broccoli sprouts or that hot lemon water or taking NAC or milk thistle, all sorts of things depending on your treatment. Guys, this is why you work with someone like Trevor, because he will help dial this in. He specifically will support you with neuropathy. But if you need support with beyond that, we can help you get in touch with an herbalist who knows all of this and can dial this in specific to your body, your cancer, and your environment. But so important for you to understand, you need to be measuring your liver toxicity. And guess what, guys? If it goes up, you reduce your dose, skip a dose, take a little bit less. So there's some options here. There is a community protocol that's out there. I'm just going to quickly flash this one more time for everyone. And most of the people who are on the community protocol take fenbendazole 3 days on and then 4 days off. And the 3 days on, they do it for 222 milligrams. Is that correct? Yes. Sorry. 222. 222. Yes. Milligrams a day. So that's what the community protocol is. We have heard people doing it up to 444 milligrams. So taking 2 of those a day. Guys, guess what? If your liver can take it, maybe that's a good idea. But this is where you need to be checking your liver, because this should be guiding you of what is too much too fast.
And the community protocol is what Joe originally used. Exactly. And then he's switching his recommendations to add those supplements we just talked about, because kind of in the approach of identifying pathways of your tumor, he recommended, we can block it by blocking these pathways. That's where those supplements I read came from. Those are not in the community protocol, which is what he originally did.
This protocol that we have, what we have on the screen right now, is his actual slide from the conference we were at last week.
This is his amended recommendation.
This is exactly right. So,
not that I'm sure like the hemp oil could still be in use. It's just not specifically on this protocol anymore.
Exactly. It's never going to hurt you to take a little CBD.
Right.
So, okay, guys, the big question is, though, am I going to PetSmart to get this? So let's talk a little bit about where we could potentially source this and what are our options. So you always have a guy. So let's talk about where would you go if you wanted to source this. So you certainly could go to like Chewy. That's a possibility. There's pet stores, or even your local cattle feed store, Tractor Supply store has this in there. And the likelihood is they will be able to help you find this if you're willing to take what's available and US made. Yeah. But if it's not important for you to have something that is US made, there are other options. So Trevor, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, totally. So I would say you want to be safe about the animal source. The one way you want to be safe is you don't want it in some compounded cream or gel or some kind of paste for eating, only because there can be added in things in there that can upset the human GI tract. But like you're saying, they sell powders and tablets that are produced still at a pharmaceutical grade level, but for the animal industry. Yep. So other ways, if you wanted it produced in an off-brand pharmaceutical factory, you can source it through India, through India Mart. You have to be careful with just random websites, but you can find established off-brand pharmaceutical manufacturers in India that will sell this to you. And what you want to do is you just want to make sure that you're buying it in sealed, registered packaging, and that is with a company that has a website and is actively selling off-brand pharmaceutical drugs. And also, here's another valid point, is that they're not selling scheduled substances. These are things that are regulated in the United States at pharmacies and with doctors, but it's not illegal for you to purchase these things. But do follow the laws wherever you may be.
Absolutely. Okay, so Trevor, I know that people are likely going to have some questions for us based on this. Can you explain for folks where they can reach out to and how they can find you?
Yeah, I'm at clarksherbs.com or neuropathyherbalist.com. I'm on, I got all the social media and all that. And you can just reach out through the contact form on either of those websites.
Okay, I'm just trying to put a bunch of these down here. Yeah. So, that's right, guys. So we have mojohealth.org. That is the nonprofit that I run. Certainly a great place to go and get information for anyone who's looking for info on cancer. You also have Neuropathy Herbalist, where you can go to set up an appointment with Trevor in case you have neuropathy. He can help support any toxin or chemo-induced neuropathy and help save you so that you can go back to your daily life and have a little bit more joy.
And then I want to make a comment too about Joe's story would be classified as anecdotal evidence, and that's sometimes described as like a dirty word. But I just want to point out that anecdotal evidence is not the opposite of science. It's the very beginning of the scientific process. So, it's the foundation of the scientific method. So we observe, and then we start to group observations together, and then we start to form a hypothesis, and then we study these things. That wasn't the perfect 7-point scientific method, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. I just wanted to point that out because people treat it like, oh, this guy said it, whatever.
I think that's really, really important to say. Guys, I also want to say, if you would like to work with me specifically so I can build a data strategy unique to you and teach you how to do all of this, as of today, am opening up one-on-one consulting clients or appointments on my website. And my website, of course, is beadatag.com. So beadatag.com, you can go set up one-on-one appointments with me so that we can actually work through your unique data strategy. I also offer group level classes through my nonprofit Mojo Health. I actually have a new one starting tomorrow, one of our Heal Smarter classes, which teaches you both how to repair your natural health defense systems, as well as teaches you how to use data to predict your cancer healing journey, as well as teaches you how to build a unique strategy unique to you. I also have a free bot available on the website mojohealth.org, as well as all kinds of information on how to use data in our podcast. So there is a whole bunch of resources out there for you to access to get to know all of these great things as well. So I just want to make sure you understand you can connect with me at beadatag.com. You can connect with Trevor at clarksherbs.com.
Clarksherbs.com.
Use code MOJO for a discount.
That's right. There you go. Or neuropathy herbalist.
Or neuropathyherbalist.com, guys. Yeah. So lots of ways that you can reach out to us. But I just want to say, one of the most enriching parts of meeting Joe Tippins was meeting another survivor like me. There are not that many people who have an experience, and at the end of their experience, spend all of their nights, weekends, and holidays to try and share what they learned to help the rest of the world and light the path for them. When you meet someone else with that energy, you feel it right away. So as soon as I understood what Joe Tippins was doing, I immediately respected him. I've spent the last 3 years, every night, weekend, and holiday, trying to bring Mojo Health to you, to no personal benefit to myself. That changes when I start my consulting business today, but everything else has been for the benefit of the nonprofit. And Joe shared with us that not only has he done everything else to this point for no cost, he is actually investing his own money in a clinical trial right now. So he is literally putting his money where his mouth is. So if you have any doubts about this man, I'm going to go ahead and say he has received nothing for what he shared with the world. I saw him live and in person and can say he is kicking ass and see he's putting his money where his mouth is. And so that gives me a lot of faith and trust in his story. Trevor, what else would you share?
I was just going to touch on that point. I'm familiar with the investigational new drug process to some extent. Not for a pharmaceutical, but he is actually investing his money, and he doesn't even think he'll be around to see the process finished potentially, just because I guess he's getting older. But he has hired a team of chemists. They're developing basically an analog of fenbendazole, so you can add tiny little functional groups to slightly alter the absorption of a drug or to alter the safety profile. In this case, the absorption. And he's doing that, and then he is paying and applying for the investigational new drug process, which we're looking at like 12, 15 plus years to create a drug that can be studied for humans that's still basically the same drug and then can be used clinically without question.
Okay, great.
So that's pretty important. Pretty impressive that he's doing that.
Okay, great. We do have a couple of questions here. Yeah. So I just want to say the first one is someone just logged in and missed a bunch of this. We will be saving this video to my profile on Facebook. I'm pretty sure we'll also be saving it on your profile as well. So check out Mojo Health or Julie K. Stevens _ Julie K. Stevens, and you will be able to watch the entire recorded video. We also have another question that says, I've been taking ivermectin and fenbendazole for almost 2 years with my colon cancer. Would Fen-Ben be better to take instead of Men-Ben? And I will say, we don't have this clear answer for that. But what we can say is Joe Tippins very, very, very strongly feels that nothing will work as strong as fenbendazole. So if the question of why you're not taking Fen-Ben is because it's a canine animal versus a human animal, I would just say that chemicals are made every day. How they're slotted for trials really doesn't change the chemical composition of what it is. So how it is classified does not get me in one camp or another. I'm going to look for what is most effective. If you're just taking the one fenbendazole and not taking the supplements, that could be the disadvantage as well. What was suggested by Jane McClellan is to swap them on and off. So to do a few weeks of one and a few weeks of other. So that may actually help your body respond stronger. So Tony, if you're still listening, I would consider maybe swapping some Fen Ben out every couple of weeks for sure.
It's kind of just a safe way to hedge your bet since we do not have the clinical data. Yep.
Absolutely.
And then I wanted to mention this study real briefly, where it was a study on mice, but they did do a study where they just used fenbendazole with the mice, and the tumors were actually able to escape the inhibition through the 3 pathways and continue to grow. And then when they mixed in some of these other supplements to block the other pathways, they then saw a decrease in tumor size in the mice. So while that's in animals, and we're not exact same biology as animals, it was indicative of an action going on of just using fenbendazole versus using it with the supplements, blocking those other pathways.
Also, I want to say it is wildly important, regardless of what you're doing, to be measuring your blood biomarkers, to understand the score of your cancer, regardless of if you're on ivermectin and fenbendazole, whether you are hopping on one leg and praying every day, or whether you're taking chemo. You want to keep track of the speed and the rate of the cancer in your blood. So if you're not using a full data strategy where you understand the type of tumor cell, not where it is, but the type of tumor cell, if you don't have a way to measure the speed using your blood, and you're not figuring out what the chinks in your armor are to your natural health defense systems, there's optimizations beyond Fen-Ben that you need to take in addition. So guys, this is one piece of a comprehensive strategy. It is not one and done. It is not a silver bullet. It is one thing that can help you in your journey to treat your cancer cells. All right, Trev, what else are we missing that you want to make sure we hit on before we wrap up today?
That's it. We mentioned talking to your doctor about this, getting the basic labs, basic blood panel. Everyone's got your ALT, AST, liver enzyme levels, monitoring liver health. That's the big safety issue. It's not a huge safety issue. You want to be monitoring it. You're doing a lot of things. You have a lot of things going on with your body during this process, from the cancer to other medications you might be taking to the fenbendazole.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
Thank you guys so much for your time today. We really are so grateful for you. Please do like and share this video. It helps us with our algorithm and make sure people can see this life-changing information so that we understand all boats rise together. So if we share this information with you and you share it with your community, we all can know another tool that is in our toolbox. As always, I know Trevor and I can say, we wish you a long and healthy life, and may you live long and lucky. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.